Cowards who wasted our time last week, passing a parental bill of rights, not giving a damn about the rights of children.
Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost, who got into politics because of what happened in Sandy Hook and then eventually became the national organizing director of March for Our Lives following another preventable tragedy in Parkland, Florida, took to the House floor to give a fiery speech following another preventable tragedy. So, of course, you all heard about what happened in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't need to go over those details again. These stories are incredibly depressing, but there are ways to help prevent how often this happens. So I'm going to get to his speech. I'm going to get to what he was just doing last week, his first bill in Congress, what it was about, and some clips around that as well. But first, I'm sure you've seen this, but let's just share it again. Firearms are the leading cause of death among U.S. children and teens. So they have surpassed motor vehicle crashes. This is the only country where this is the case. Let me get to his speech on the floor, and it hits on some very important issues, and then I'll get to some more context, and also very specifically what policy can do to help prevent how often this happens. It's not going to prevent every single case, of course. There's no perfect policy. But the whole aim is to stop how often this happens, and Canada has some really good laws you should look at. So I'll get to some of that after this clip.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today because I am furious. Angry that 3 kids died today in Nashville, Tennessee. Angry that hundreds of parents had to cry their eyes out today, not knowing if their child would come home from school. And angry that we have to live day after day when we turn on the news to see rampant gun violence claiming life after life. And all of this is because politicians in this chamber that have been bought and paid for by the NRA, that put profits over people, over human lives. Cowards who wasted our time last week, passing a parental bill of rights, not giving a damn about the rights of children to be able to go to their classroom without the fear of being gunned down due to senseless gun violence. It is likely that at this moment, the next mass shooter is planning their shooting. What will this chamber do about it? I filed my last bill last week to simply create a federal office of gun violence prevention. 3 kids are dead today, and every day that we wait, 100 more people die. I pray to God that there are some Republicans in this chamber that can help support my legislation to save lives. I yield back my time.
There's not going to be. It's good to see him do what he's doing and put this bill forward. I'll get to more on the bill in a bit here with his speech, but why would they change their minds now? This is, for all the accurate criticisms of how both parties are very similar when it comes to economic issues, there are also accurate criticisms as it pertains to the difference there is on this issue, the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. There are ways to uphold what you consider to be a right while doing some common sense regulation around it. Free speech has restrictions, defamation, threats, incitement of violence. Why can't there be some common sense restrictions around gun ownership? So I have a larger video on this that I did about 2 years ago. Canada may hold the answer to America's gun problems. I think I also touch on some of those topics as well in the Joe Rogan video, as well as the Jon Stewart one here. So I'll link to all 3 below in the description box on YouTube in case you want to check those out. But before I get to more from Maxwell Frost, just briefly on Canada's very basic gun laws. This is basic stuff. So you need a license, which involves going to classes, firearm safety training. You have to, once you get that license, you have to wait a minimum of 28 days before you're approved. Then there's a firearm application with an extensive background check. Your partner and past partners need to approve of you getting that firearm. There's also an 800 number that is on the sheet that they have to sign, where they can call and say, hey, no, I may have signed this sheet, but I did it under pressure. Don't give this person a firearm. So people that, and not just partners, people that know you can call in and say, yeah, this person should not own a firearm. And then if you pass through all that, once you get the firearm, there are then restrictions and laws around how you have to store it. So it has to be stored in a locked box. Very basic stuff. And we don't have nearly the gun problem that Americans do. Yet you can still own a firearm if you choose to. And you are, cleared for doing so. It's very basic stuff, but it seems to be impossible for those in Congress who are simply, let's be clear, answering to the gun lobby. That's what it's about. They're in Congress because of that gun lobby. If they didn't support what they supported, then they would be likely out of their seats because there'd be some other crazy right-winger to replace them. So they do it for their seat. Let me get to Maxwell Frost discussing his bill. So first from the recount here. Actually, they quote him. So I'll just play this clip. This is him discussing his bill to create a federal office of gun violence prevention, and he's standing beside Senator Chris Murphy, who also introduced the bill with him.
This bill takes an important step in establishing gun violence prevention as a permanent priority of the federal government, creating the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And just a few weeks ago in my district, gun violence hit us really hard. 3 people were shot and killed, including a 9-year-old girl. This issue is robbing our kids of their childhoods and decimating families. It's impeding on the liberty and freedoms of our people because right now, if you are a child in this country and God forbid you died, the most likely reason would be because you were shot to death. In 2023, in the United States of America, the leading cause of death for children is gun violence. That's a policy failure. It's unacceptable. And today we're proposing a good step so we can save lives. This bill would ensure that the federal government has a coordinated response to end gun violence.
So that, again, was just last week. And then this happened. So, look, I don't want to drag on this video too long because there's not much else for me to say. I've talked about this topic again and again. I feel like I'm talked out. My voice is, I'm losing my voice now. There's just very little else to say. But I want to share this tweet that I saw that, puts things into perspective here. This is from Jojo from Jersey. Republicans will force a 10-year-old to carry a baby to term, let a 6-year-old carry a gun, permit a 12-year-old to work an 8-hour shift in a meatpacking plant, and allow a grown man to marry a 14-year-old with a judge's consent, all while telling us that the reason they're banning drag queens, gender-affirming care, and books about Rosa Parks is because they want to protect our kids. BS. There's some more here I was going to share, but we're going over the same points. So I'm going to, if you missed this story, I will link to this below the video under sources on YouTube as well in the description box. Essentially, there was a pro-gun control protester who was dragged out of a recent oversight hearing that Maxwell Frost was in, and it was someone that he knew very well, someone that lost their child in Parkland. So he talked a bit about that here, and it's, I don't know. There's nothing else to say. People that care know that there are solutions here. And again, there's no perfect solution, but there are solutions. There are ways to put protections that I just discussed in place. That can be done. That will definitely save lives. It's not going to stop every single incident, but it's going to save lives. And that's not going to happen until there is a realignment where no longer does money control politics. Because this, again, is an issue where these Republicans that continue preventing anything from getting done, they understand that they get their money, a lot of their money, from the gun lobby, and that if they reject that, then they're going to lose their seat in the primary to someone worse than them. So this is how the system works.